All set.
Okay, good evening. I'm Josh Howroyd, Chairman of the Manchester Housing Board of Commissioners, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:33. Present for the meeting are Vice Chairman Paul Rubin, Commissioner Lisa O'Neill, Commissioner Timothy Becker, Executive Director Joe Diascoli, our Finance Director, whatever your title is, Boomer, Robert Cunahan, and our Recording Secretary, Karen Abradis. At this time, I would like to move to item 2, adoption of minutes for the meeting of January 20th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Becker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Seconded by Mr. Rubin. Are there additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. It's 4-0. Item 3, correspondence.
Yes, just wanted to let the board know, once again, CHFA had put out a proposal in regards to the basic needs pantry. And this is one of the information that I had worked with the working group through CHFA. As you may recall, back last year, I had put in an application and I was awarded $3,000 from CHFA, in which I had purchased $30 gift cards from ShopRite, in which we gave them to all the tenants at Spencer Village and at the Congregate. So we're working with CHFA in the working group as under the Con-Nero president. A lot of the executive directors that only have state-only public housing, during the working group, I had mentioned in regards to the supplies that housing authorities have been purchasing, the face masks, face shields, everything in which they were not eligible under FEMA requirements. So talking with CHFA, they had changed the proposal per se, so that housing authorities under this basic needs, they added more definition to it, in which these housing authorities could put in their proposals to try to get up to $5,000 in regards to expenses that they occurred during this COVID crisis. And if you were already awarded the $3,000, you would have been eligible up to $2,000. In which what I did was put an application not for the protections, but I basically put in for gift cards once again for all the residents at Spencer Village, since we are in the midst of the renovations and the tenants have been great. Unfortunately, as Mr. Chairman knows, we in the board, we had to do some cutbacks in regards to the revitalization project. So to give something back to the community, the CHFA has granted us the additional $2,000, in which I have gone down to ShopRite. I'm just waiting for them to give me a call back once they have the $25 gift card. So I can turn those over to the DeMarco management. So then DeMarco management can give them out to the residents. So just wanted the board to know that we put in a proposal, we got the money. I'm very happy. CHFA has been great, and a little something to our residents goes a far way.
Very good.
You don't have Judy in the waiting room, do you?
No.
Okay.
I think that noise was somebody's computer went off that I did send that email.
Oh, okay.
Because I heard it beep on my word bell go off. Okay. So are there any other communications, Joe?
The only other thing is just hot off the press. It wasn't on the board on the agenda today, but I was on the phone with Jennifer Gottlieb Elazari from the HUD field office. Some of you, back in November of 2017, I believe Tim was not on the board at that point in time when CHR had approached us in regards to the 3 project-based vouchers for their units at the Promise House. Promise House is fully built. I did do a tour there Thursday. They had asked me to go out there. Now, back, so we know that that Andrea from CHR had come out and talked to us about it. And literally, I totally forgot all about it because 3.5 years later, I didn't get a phone call or know that the Promise House was still going on and so forth. So I get the raging phone call saying, "Oh, I'm all set. I'm ready to go with those 3 project-based vouchers." I'm like, time out. I said, there's a problem now that, you guys never informed me when construction was going on. And just like at Spencer Village, we have to have a signed AHAP contract in regards to this project. And I said, I think you dropped the ball on me, and I really don't know if I can go forward because it's over 3 years now. So they had reached out to HUD. Jennifer had called me. So Jennifer and I and Tanya Whipple, who's my asset manager from HUD, we were going back and forth. And same thing, they believe that because of the time frame that has elapsed, that we cannot assist, perhaps. But because we did have in the minutes in which they did look it up on the website, the board had approved the 3 project-based vouchers. Jennifer has reached out to HUD Washington to still see if this is something that we will be eligible to utilize. So I just want to let the board know about that. And the only thing I said to Jennifer is, if this goes forward, I definitely would want a letter from HUD, because I don't want no sanctions to come back to Manchester Housing Authority saying that I did something illegal or incorrect. And she's like, Joe, no, you will get a letter in regards to that. We will make sure that it's no fault of yours, but you are right that the time frame has passed, and so forth. So I just wanted the board to know what had transpired. This was a phone call that I had at 4:30 this evening for about an hour with her in regards to this, because we did have a conversation about 11:30 early this morning. But I may, if we don't, there may be another option that another housing authority who is underutilized with their Section 8 vouchers could possibly assist and do the project-based vouchers through the Promise House. So I just wanted to let the board know about that.
Yeah, it's interesting that came about, because I actually drove by there recently and noticed that they completed that. It's on North Main Street.
North Main Street, and I got to tell you, Mr. Chairman, I did the tour. Beautiful, the work that they did. Each, it's in a single room occupancy, 12 units. They all have their own kitchen, bath. Each room has a Murphy bed and everything. But, a couple of the units had a nice view, but then you had a couple of units that overlooked the warehouse, or the company behind there. You see all the metal yards and everything else. But and then one of the individuals had talked about how people were concerned. You can see the privacy that the front of the building does abut the single family homes. I can see where those owners could be a little upset.
Yeah, well, I think initially they were actually going to have access to that from Carolyn Drive, which is a cul-de-sac in that residential neighborhood. But I believe they changed the plans to put a longer driveway in off North Main Street.
Yeah.
And so Tim, for your information, it's a supportive housing program it's for a younger population too.
Yeah, for foster youths between the age of 18 to 24. After when they reach age 24, they need to be out. So that was the question that I also had with HUD, is saying, is this a transitional or supportive plan? Because under the project base, there's two different guidelines on that. So because the next thing is if it's a transition, you're talking that once the individual reaches the age of 24, then they automatically get a Section 8 voucher, and so forth. So you could actually give out 3 vouchers per year if these individuals age out. And for the next 10 years, you're looking at possibly giving out 30 Section 8 vouchers if there's one available, if the housing authority had one available.
Where is this unit located, or this housing project?
It's off of North Main Street, right after the BJ's.
Yeah, it's near BJ's. It's set far back from, there's a long driveway. It's actually across from,
I want to say 6, I think it was 6.
it's probably about 3 properties before you get to BJ's. Coming from
okay.
Mayfair, it'd be on your
Okay.
left heading to BJ's.
694 North Main Street.
So, and it's in a back lot?
Yeah, well, it actually was a lot. I think it was property that was on a cul-de-sac. There's a small subdivision. I think it's Carolyn Drive.
Yes, okay.
And the property actually was on the end of that cul-de-sac, but it's pretty large. It's probably 1.5 acres, maybe, I'm guessing.
Okay, all
But
right.
it had access to North Main. So,
Does it go through Carolyn Drive or not?
it doesn't appear to, no.
No, because they had the entrance came from 694 North Main Street and a little circle going right back to North Main Street.
Okay,
Which is probably good because it doesn't impact the kind of single family nature of that neighborhood. And because it's set far back, it really doesn't, it actually abuts like Allied Printing and things like that behind it.
probably a fair amount of need for that age group that kind of gets, they're technically adults at 18, but you don't have parents supporting you, where are you gonna go?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good idea, but
Yeah.
how come, we'll have to see if you think HUD's gonna support us on it?
Yeah, I think HUD, with the conversation that I had with HUD, I think it's something that, I think Jennifer's, that's why she's just waiting to hear back from HUD Washington, but she believes that, that we won't get into trouble, and all that stuff. So I said, as long as I get something in writing. So, I don't operate like that. I want to make sure everything is correct. They said the time frame is up. So,
Do we have the resources to fund that?
well, so it's the vouchers that we have. So the thing is that we have the resources. It's just that, people do get off the program, as we know. The only caveat that I just want the board to understand, or what I know everybody understands. So, Mr. Becker, the only thing that the caveat is, so, there could be some political people that really doesn't understand how the wait list works. So
Right,
if there is an individual that reached the age 24 and he or she wants to age out and they are eligible for that voucher, and if there's not one available, even though that they move out of the promise house, their name goes on top of the wait list. So sometimes that could look a red flag saying, oh, where did this person come from? How did this person jump on number 1? All of a sudden,
Right.
you have people on the wait list and say, oh, I was number 3. How did I go down to number 5? And everything else. So without with people not really understanding, or once they get the true facts of how it works. But in a single eye, when somebody says that, they're thinking, oh, you're jumping a wait list. You're doing fraudulent things, per se.
Okay,
Sounds like
thank you for that update.
You're welcome.
Anything else on correspondence?
That's it for correspondence.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, accounts payable for January 2021.
Oh, it's the regular bills that we have, invoices. Josh and I sign our lives away, so these are typical bills. Cheryl receives them. Mr. Boomer reviews them, signs off on them. And then, Cheryl prints out the checks, and then you got Josh and I that are double checking all these numbers and signing the checks. So it's business
Did
as
we get
usual.
did we get the spreadsheet on that?
Yeah, we did. It actually came from Karen. It was in an
Was it
email
minutes?
right after Joe sent his.
Yeah, it was probably Friday when this was sent out by Karen.
Okay.
I'm looking right now.
So I got the minutes from Karen.
Right.
I didn't remember seeing that.
Yeah, it was Friday morning. Joe sent the agenda early Friday morning, Karen a little later Friday morning.
Oh, I got it. I got it. Okay.
So it's in there.
Excellent.
There's actually a couple other things in there too. I do just want to say, I do like the new format.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that you may see, well, Mr. Becca hasn't seen, so the only thing that you may see that's out of the ordinary is because we have an outrageous water bill. We had a major leak at Mayfair Gardens 2 months ago. I think it was the day when we had our board meeting and residents were all uproar. Now we've received another bill for about $7,000. I've been talking with Fran Taylor at the water department, and now because of all this freezing and snow, we've had ADB going out there because we just don't know where this water leak is coming from. So ADB, and talking with Fran, he was giving me other entities that they know of, seeing if they had these powerful sound devices that can probably pinpoint where these water leak could be. Thus far, we have not found anything. So we just don't know if it's happening that tenants are leaving water running in the units per se, and everything else. Because if there was any, with the weather being so cold and the ground freezing, you would think that if there was water coming from, if there was a water leak, people would probably not be having water in their units. So we have not gotten any phone calls that there's no water in the units. It's just so mind-boggling of what's going on. I know when we did the revitalization with Siemens that they were finding things underground when we were converting from electric to gas. So we're hoping that there's no rupture of a line somewhere. But we are Dave, our maintenance foreman, along with ADB, and all the maintenance guys are out there checking the ground, seeing if they find any wetness and everything else. So it's just mind-boggling on this. And as I said to Fran, I said hopefully we can try to work something out on this, knowing that you know what's going on. But he's like, Joe, I can't do anything in regards to this. The only thing I could help out is on the sewer if anything was going into the sewer. But if it's a regular water, that's a bill that you would have to be responsible for. So one thing that Fran's been good is that he's having his guys go by once or even twice a day and trying to do meter readings to see if there, if there's still a spike going on. So Fran has been tremendous. Love working with him and hoping to get a game plan on this.
Is there just one meter at Mayfair?
There's 1 meter, and of course we can't get to it because it's in the street in the street. So we can't go into the well to go look at it. If the guys go out there, they could get arrested by the cops.
Right.
So that's why Fran.
The reason I was asking is if we had it pinpointed by building, we
Yeah.
might be able to.
There's 1 meter, so yeah, it's crazy.
Good luck on that. I mean,
I
we'll
know.
find out when there's a big sinkhole somewhere, probably.
Well, that's the thing. We just don't know, and we just don't know if it's tenants, and that's what happened to Congregate. Same thing. We found out it was a tenant that had. We can't pinpoint it, but there was no water leaks outside. So the only thing that you can think of is that somebody is just running water continuously, and it's unbelievable.
Okay. So we'll move on to the executive report, item 5, A, financial statements for January 2021.
This is Boomer, which he does the financials, and looks like everything is doing very well once again. So I'll leave it to Boomer to talk, or if anyone had any questions in regards to it, and hopefully everyone likes his new way of doing things. I think Tim had asked him, so he has added some extra lines to the report. But overall, the housing authority is in great shape.
First of all, I'd like to comment on the comments themselves. And we always look and say, well, we're always doing a gain. And one of the things that's making us show more of a gain than we might actually have now is the slowness of the current U.S. postal system. Because when Cheryl gets bills in, she puts them into the system. So like we were talking today, she was like calling for different places to get bills because she wasn't getting electric bills or she wasn't getting certain bills. So some of those might be a little behind the ball because we can't enter an expense that's not there that we don't know what it is. So again, we're showing very well, but I just want to put a little caution in there. We're maybe not doing as well as we think, but we're certainly not in any danger of not looking well and looking at a gain at most of the time. Secondly, I wanted to point out that overall, we're at 1/3 of the year gone, and we're at 31.7% of expenses according to the summary of income and expense, while our income is a little bit ahead of schedule. And part of the extra income comes from COVID money coming in as well, because that's something we didn't expect all the way through. I'm jumping really quickly. I should stop for any questions at that point and those things we just talked about.
Just the central office seems to be in brackets, at least for this month.
Yeah, for 1 month, it's not going to show a gain. If it shows a gain every month, we're going to say, well, we're doing so well, we shouldn't be doing that well. Occasionally you're going to have some bills come in, like some utilities or something. They're going to make it look the other way around. So that's right up to date. It's a 14,000 gain for the year, but 2,500 loss at this point. The congregate loss is a little more concerning, but that's because of the way the monies have been coming in from the state. It's been behind, it's been ahead. We never know when it's coming in lately. But overall, I think we're still okay with that. The congregate is showing a loss for the whole year at this point, and I think I mentioned we really have to watch that and make sure it doesn't get away from us. That's all. So
is that the state being slow on reimbursing us?
Yeah. Again, we sent a budget in just quickly. We sent a budget in last May for the fiscal year that starts July 1st from them. They sent something to me in like November, December saying we didn't get it. And I had sent it in, I sent them all the information. So we weren't getting the subsidy from them until the end of December. We actually received most of that subsidy in January, and we may have been caught up by the end of February. That's with that subsidy. So, and it's just, part of, they've been busy and they've been all doing other things with the COVID and stuff like that too. Two other comments. One, there is a, we'll see it when we look at the Section 8 scheduled as well, but there has been an accounting difference for us with the COVID money, and you see a COVID report. But what had happened with HUD, we were told after the year was over that we had to take all the COVID money and actually make it like a separate program and pull it out. So it really hasn't affected the AMPS and the public housing too much, but it really has affected what we're doing in Section 8. Because in Section 8, they've given us the money ahead of time. In public housing, we've asked for the money and gotten it later, so it hasn't affected that. So what has happened, we got money before the year ended in 9/30. I'll try to make this as simple as possible because it's confusing to me, and we were arguing about it, not arguing, we were discussing it today also. But the money that came in before 9/30, we spent as a regular expense in the program. And now we're told we have to take it out, and it's not expended in the program, but it's only expended for COVID. So we had to pull it out, and we actually have to put it in reporting to HUD in a different category. So what happened when we did all of that and came to the end of January, when we did all of that, we actually show that the month of January showed that we didn't, we expended nothing. We expended minus $34,000 because of all of this. So that's, if you're looking at that Section 8 schedule, that's when I put the extra side over there that you were asking for, Tim.
Yeah,
The first column shows the money we received. The second column shows the money we spend. Obviously, it looks weird in January because of that. And I don't know any other way to record it except for we have to record it that way for HUD because we're recording it, like I said, as a separate program. But the money is all in the same place, and that's what's confusing to us because the money still goes in and out of the HCV program, but the expenses and the income have to be reported separately as a different program. So part of that 34,000 is from stuff that happened before 9/30, and that's why it was that, because we had to make this adjustment that we were told to make. So I know that's a confusing way to explain it, but if you ask me anything, maybe I can explain it better. I don't know.
well, just to follow up, the COVID money, you were utilizing a portion of that to pay the administrative expenses for the Section 8 program?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Yeah, there's specific money that comes from for the Section 8 program and specific money that comes for the public housing program. They're separate. Okay, so in the Section 8 program, they actually advanced this money ahead of time and said, this is your COVID money for the year. So that's where the confusion came from. So.
And you got to show that on a separate report.
Yeah.
Right?
And even in our reporting, and I have to go back and look at it after Cheryl and I talked about today, I think when it was reported to HUD in the REACT reporting at the end of the year, that they pulled that money out and made a separate thing, but I don't know where they put the cash and how they handled that. That's what I'm confused about, because there's no cash in the cash is all in the HCB program. The cash is all in the public housing program. There's no cash in the actual COVID programs. It's just income and expense. So
Is this going to show up in our audit?
no, because we're doing it the way they told us, and that's why.
Okay.
That's yeah, and I guess if I can, Joe, if I can throw one other comment in.
Absolutely.
There was also, I did put the at the bottom of one of the statements, the usual thing, I put the amount of the money that was in the regular nonprofit.
Yeah.
The Housing Corporation of Manchester. I want Paul to know that I did the tax return for that already. Since I say that to Paul because I have to put his name on it as a chairman for that. So I thought you want to know that I did that. That's not a problem. That one's really simple to do, and it's just a postcard kind of return. And if you don't make over $50,000, you don't have to report anything. So that's the way the nonprofit's done. However, The LLC may be a totally different problem. I asked our auditor about that, and he said we would probably be able to do that the same way this year. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Joe about this yet either, but this year we probably report it as the LLC as a not regular nonprofit, because it really has no income and expenses. But as it starts to move into a different situation at the end of next year, it's going to be a regular whole corporate tax return. So, and I don't know if we have to do that or what the auditor does it or how it works out. We'll discuss that when the auditor comes in. So, but this year it'll be just a straight form, and I'll have that done probably by the next month. I'll let you know what that is.
Perfect.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Boomer.
Yeah, I will note, February, we're gonna have some snow removal expenses too. The Super Bowl storm and what we may be getting, and plus a couple of other nuisance events. So we already have signed some checks for snow removal, not to mention, you know,
Yep.
DOT and so forth associated with the staff. You know, no worse than typical winters, but we've been spoiled maybe the last 2 years.
Past couple of years, absolutely. I think the past 2 years, we only had 2 or 3 storms that hit us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming back as a vengeance now. this
Yeah.
month.
We'll see. Okay, so any other questions on financial statements? Not, we're gonna move on to item B, the vacancy report.
Yeah, so Steve was been working on that and was having a little difficulty. So he has shot me a synopsis of what has happened. So so in regards to leasing up, you know, we have right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 vacancies as we speak right now. So we're just leasing up. I know Martha has sent me an email that out of that, 3 of them should be leased up as soon as the units are completed down at North Main Street. So hopefully by March 1, majority of these will be going. Steve has been having difficulties with a couple of the Bluefield drives, especially the ones that have been on the second floor with this whole COVID, but he knows he's going through it diligently and trying to lease these units up. You know, we're trying to go through and, you know, basically our protocols, you know, 1 strike, you refuse, out you go. And so we're just trying to, if needed, we really don't want to open up the wait list right now at this point in time, because we have more names on the wait list than we can choose. And if you open up the wait list, now you're still going to be another 2 months down the road with the lottery and all that stuff. So hopefully these individuals will do it, come through. On that, also on the reports, because of we have some individuals that are not making their payments, are nuisance and everything else. Right now, we do have 7 cases to Mike Rona, seeing if we can get judgments, and trying to get them on the serious non-payments of rent. As we all know, the federal moratorium has extended the eviction process, in which I hate to say this, but I think it's probably going to go out until the summertime. I think it's going to be extended once again in regards to that. On the call today with the governor's working group, the state of Connecticut does have $237 million in regards to the emergency rental assistance program for individuals who are behind on rent, but unfortunately, public housing does not fall under the category because our residents are subsidized. And then I still have that one individual, unfortunately, that has passed away, and we're trying to get that unit through probate court and everything else. I was at the point in saying, you know what, let's go for it. And there's really nothing valuable in there. But I know if I do that, someone will be knocking on the door saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to see, my, my family members' personal belongings. So, but overall, collections of rents were at 94%, which is good. Wish it could be a little higher, but that's where we're at in regards to the reports.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Becker.
I think in the past meeting, you had a couple units that were vacant over 100 days. Do we have we leased those up?
We leased one up and we still got the other two. These are the two ones up in the second floor. These are individuals, that don't like second floors going up the stairs. So Steve and I are talking diligently on this, and, it's the same responses that we get back. I don't feel safe. This COVID, nobody's been vaccinated, and so forth. So, at least one point of the things that HUD knows what's going on in regards to that. Two, is that because our units are offline, because of the application for RAD, we would not get penalized for the excessive days that the units are occupied. So, you damn if you do, damn if you don't. But I would love that, love to have the units occupied, and everything else. But it's just not our organization. It's throughout the country. All housing authorities are having this difficulties on that. So, this is probably by far in my 7 years here that a list has been this long per se. I've never seen a list like this. I'm sure it's like, nothing what you saw in your previous times, but it's still something that, I don't even want to see it that, but, Steve and Martha do their diligent and trying to lease these units up. People are fearful. I can understand. We do serve the most vulnerable population, and I don't think knock on wood, all I've known in the almost 1 year of this COVID, that we've only had one case of COVID. So, I hear horror stories from my good friends throughout the state of Connecticut, that they're dealing with 10, 12, 15 individuals. So, kudos to, Mary Ann too, and just, reaching out to individuals, and that they're listening and being safe.
Well, hopefully we get through the next few months and,
Yeah, it's
between vaccinations, warmer weather.
yeah, because that was
Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but
yeah. So
you know,
hopefully,
it's
yeah, because
the confluence of events between people being fearful of making changes during COVID, and also, we're going back to the vacancy issue, that people are gaming the system to some degree too, knowing they can't be evicted,
Oh yes.
So,
You can say it was kind of a heated conversation this afternoon on one of the calls with no disrespect to legal service or fair housing, the attorneys, but we understand that where they're coming from, but they also have to understand where landlords and everybody else is coming from, and that unfortunately individuals you're right, are playing the system per se. But the argument that I make, so at least I'm speaking on behalf of Con Air, but some of the stuff is regards to Manchester housing, is that even though our residents are being subsidized, they're still not making those payments. And why? The housing authority still has their bills. They still got to make their utility payments. They still need to make their pilot payments and so forth, their insurance premium. So we're just like the same, any other attorney. And, somebody, made the comment, well, to the attorneys, well, do you own property? If you own properties, I don't think you would be speaking like this, because you would want your money, and everything else. So it kind of got heated, unfortunately. Lee, but Commissioner Salem Mascaro Bruno did a good job, and I think a lot of landlords have been out of rent for almost a year, and they probably don't want to see their property be disarray and everything else. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I was talking to a private landlord the other day who basically bought somebody out of, rather than going through, because they couldn't evict, said, well, okay, he negotiated a price, even though the unit was damaged and so forth, because going on indefinitely, it was cheaper for him to
Well-
basically buy them out of their rent.
Yeah, just to clarify, and I know Joe, I'm sure Joe knows the rule right now, but in Connecticut, serious delinquency is defined as 6 months of non-payment.
Mhm.
As soon as they miss that 6 months, I mean, you can go and you can evict still the same as you can, under normal circumstances, but you got to wait the 6 months. And so there's two thoughts I have for that, Joe. One is, do these people realize that they're losing their right to subsidized housing basically when they don't pay? I mean, they're being penny wise and pound foolish, because first of all, for the amount that they're contributing, most of them, they're never going to find other housing that
Mhm.
that's even close. So they're being dumb about it. But the second part is, so once they lose it, they're not going to be allowed back in. They're going to have to go, live somewhere else. And then also you still have the rights to collect from those that are collectible. So some people you may never be able to see the money, but after 6 months, there's nothing stopping you from having the attorney, hey, listen, this person's working, or this person has money, or whatever. I'm going to go after it. So you still have some of those abilities.
You're absolutely correct, Paul, and that's what it's told to them, and tell them that that's one thing that we have, and I know it's concerns that Tim has brought up in the past. One good thing is if when a person leaves federal public housing owing us money, I am able to put the delinquent amount into the computer system. So when this individual tries to get anywhere outside, even in Connecticut or outside of Connecticut, if they try to apply for any federal public housing and or Section 8, if that housing authority does their due diligently, when they put their person's name into that bad debt, it's going to pop up showing, hey, Jane Doe owes Manchester Housing Authority $10,000. So that person will never get their public housing and or Section 8 until that amount is paid in full. But these are individuals that you try, and and that's why Marianne, and in the beginning when this all first started, people were just like, oh, I'm not making payments. And when we're saying that to them, Martha and Steve and myself and Marianne, people's like, you need to make sure you pay, because they're only getting their Social Security, and once they don't save that money, it's just out the door, and they're never going to be able to repay us. Even going into a repayment agreement, they're not going to keep up with their repayment agreement. So we don't want to evict, but but we still need our money. And if they don't want to listen to us, what can we
Yeah.
do? There's other people on the wait list that are dying to get public housing, and probably are well deserved, but we just got to follow the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also it's going to show up on their records as an eviction. It's not going to say pandemic eviction. It's going to show
Right.
up as an eviction. So when they apply for housing elsewhere, they're going to have problems, for that reason as well. So they're whatever. It's a big problem. I understand why it is what it is, but the burden is put on the tenants to get the relief funds, to get it to the landlord, instead of allowing the landlord to apply for it. So if
Right.
you're a landlord, you can't just say, well, my tenant's not able to pay me because of COVID. I want to apply for this money. The burden falls on the tenant, and the tenant feels no responsibility to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's a specific financial hardship on the part of a tenant, because maybe someone who actually is employed and they lose a job, then we could recalculate the rent, right? So
Well, for us, right, for public housing in Section 8, that's why I think we're not eligible. And that was one of the things that, one of the attorneys said, they came up and said, well, the Section 8 departments here in Connecticut are not doing their rent changes in a timely matter. And before I spoke up, because I knew Mike was going to pick on me, Suzanne from HUD came on and says, listen, we've been having these talks every 2 weeks. And I mentioned that in the past, that if you have a client that a housing authority is not making the adjustment, please let her know so she would follow up. And after when she spoke, she goes, Joe, what do you got to say? I said, Suzanne, as you know, we've had, I had, as under the Conero president, I've had working groups with all the executive directors when this first came out, and all housing authority has made changes. I said, we still have these conversations, and everybody that's on this working group, on the Conero working group, everyone's been saying they've been making the rental changes. So, when you get on these conversations with a lot of landlords and all that stuff, some of the stuff that's talked about is out in left field, that, they come up with these different facts, a lot of fiction and not the facts per se. So, you try to do your best, but, with this ERAP, with the $237 million. So Paula, just to piggyback a little bit what you said, the portal that they're going to have out, CHFA believes they're hoping to have it out by Friday or Monday of next week, in which landlords will be able to go on it themselves with their tenants. But there's still got to be some proof and all that stuff. So one of the things that they're doing is going back to 6 months in which they will pay 100%. So the tenants will not be responsible for 1 cent. So if your rent is $1,000, they're going to pay the $1,000 for those 6 months. And then after the 6 months, up to the first 6 months, then they're going to go up 3 months afterwards. So with $237 million, some of these tenants may be be utilizing this, saying, hey, I don't have to pay a thing. But if they are living in forgot what the other one was. If they had to pay some type of money, they would still be responsible based upon 30% of that income. So it sounded good, but there's still a lot of technical things that they have, but they have outsourced this to a company called Yardi Software, in which, they're probably one of the biggest software companies for housing authority computers and everything else. So they're going to be the ones doing all the intakes and paying out via ACH payments or by checks to the landlords and everything else.
Okay. Any other questions on vacancy reports? If not, I'm going to move on to item C, general information, with the update on the Spencer Village revitalization.
Yes,
Good.
Spencer Village is going very, it's going through very well. So we're just talking about project-based vouchers. In Spencer Village 1, we are project-based in up to 25 units. So in building 34, 40, 48, and 50, we are leasing 15 out of the 20 for February 1st. And during this time, building 36 is being renovated. And I think there's 2 individuals that are getting leased up for March 1 there. So I tell you, Pioneer Builders are doing a tremendous job, even during the snowstorms. But they have been on target in regards to their work plans. Kudos to Mary Ann. When Pioneer Builders has been ahead of time for her juggling on people moving to the hotels or to the swing units. That's probably another job for of itself. So kudos to what she's been doing and assisting DeMarco management in regards to that. DeMarco, has been working very well with Karen and Jackie from our office, getting all the necessary paperwork so we can lease up the individuals. So, they're ahead of schedule. I'm very happy. Some of the same complaints that you normally get. Unfortunately, when I had meetings with Josh and then follow-up meetings, when we had to take things out of the project, people thought they were getting a whole thing like what happened up at the congregate, but we had to take items out. So a lot of people were unhappy. Why didn't we get, why aren't our walls painted? How come I didn't get all new linoleum floors? Or what happened to the brand new doors? So I've been working with the Department of Housing. I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, see if my magic will work. Seeing if I can get an additional $150,000 from them, so we can purchase the doors and paint the units that are going to be revitalized in the future. So I do have a call with the department tomorrow to see what their thoughts are and see if I have some extra funding on that. But it's a life of its own. People are getting accustomed now to a management company there, and everything else. So I think it's going very well.
Very good. Any questions?
And I'll try to have pictures next time.
Yeah, no, that sounds like if 4 buildings have been completed, there's about 16 buildings there, I think. So it's
There's
about
16, yeah.
25%.
Yeah. And they're just plugging away, so it's good. I got to commend them. They got their crew there, and they do work on Saturdays at times. So that, they're like, Joe, is it okay if we work on Saturdays? I go, that's up to you. I don't care. If you want to work Saturdays, by all means, that's your plan, not me. I'm not paying them. If
Yeah.
that's part of your work week, absolutely. Why not?
I'll be excited if, we can celebrate. This will be the last winter for this parking lot too.
Yeah, if you drive there now, I would say avoid it, or be very cautious because potholes galore are all over the place once again.
Yeah.
And of course, with heavy machinery going around back and forth, it's just going to get worse. So just be careful if you drive by.
Yep. Will do. Okay, so moving on to the chairman's report. Just going to give an update. In anticipation of the meeting, I finally realized that Hillstown Road update that I hadn't heard back from the general manager. So I reached out to him again, and we have a meeting that's scheduled for either next Thursday or Friday with town staff to discuss Hillstown Road. So we'll give you an update after that. But we had hoped it was going to happen by now, but we actually exchanged some dates and we're waiting for a confirmation that it's either going to be Thursday or Friday next week that we'll meet.
Is that going to be an in-person meeting?
Probably going to be a Zoom meeting,
Okay.
I think. That's what I suggested, because I know town hall's been closed and it's probably more convenient for Joe's schedule too to do it by Zoom. So we'll
Either
see.
or.
Yeah. Whatever.
Be nice if we can get some sort of written, even if it's a 1-page agreement of understanding, because there's no formal agreement as to what we're doing or how we're doing it. So
I don't
whatever
think
you
we're
guys
looking, we're not looking
Whatever
for
you-
a detailed negotiated contract, but just roles and
No.
responsibilities of each party. And, even if they tell us, hey, we don't know what the future holds in 10 years. Well, in the meantime, how are we gonna keep going about doing this? And what happens, if there's a boiler breaks down, how are we paying for that? Those,
I think
those
just
types
a working agreement, 1 or 2 page
Yeah, right.
thing. I think it would just protect our interest in this arrangement.
Yeah, I actually looked up more of the history of that too, and well, Tim, you were there. It was 2002 when, actually, it was a consent calendar, right? On the board's agenda, that they purchased that property and an abutting parcel owned by the same owner. So
But it,
it was,
but it all abuts the cemetery land that the town
Yeah.
bought in like 92 or something like that.
correct.
Yeah.
So, which frankly, if you drive by there aren't all that many plots in the veterans field.
No, it's small right now, but
But
but,
it's still, yeah, someday it'll be needed. It's, it's a reserve.
yeah, it probably will last 50 to 100 years or something before they even get close to the soccer fields. So,
Right, we won't see it, but somebody will.
but for once, the town planned ahead pretty good with that parcel.
Right, yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was kind of it for the chairman's report. And I see we have no old business. So moving on to item 8, new business. We have item 2021-01, addendum to COVID-19 HQS-5 biennial inspection.
Yeah. So, as you may recall, last year, I had approached the board when HUD had came out with statutory and regulatory waivers, in which they had given some of the regulatory reliefs until the end of the year, and some of them they had through May of 2021. One of the things was the inspection, which under the HQS number 5, biannual inspections, we had changed our regular 1-year inspection and did it biannually. So now, because of the extension, I'm just asking the board for us to grant us to go into the triannual inspections, in which right now what HUD is saying, because they are in the midst of a remote inspection criteria, that right now, because inspectors are not going into units, occupied units, so that we can get a notification or a certification from the landlord certifying that there is no life-threatening deficiencies in the unit. Doesn't have to be signed by the tenant. It's the landlord certifying that there is no life-threatening deficiencies. And when I had spoken with Karen and Jackie, both of them devised a nice letter that will be sent, that has been sent out to landlords, that they can certify that there is no life-threatening. So in case, God forbid, if something is life-threatening and something happens, MHA is not on the hook, because we have documentation on this. We just don't know how much farther this may be going with this COVID and everything else. But just to inform the commissioners on initial inspections, when you do have a tenant going into a unit, yes, we do have our contractor inspector that does go out and does the inspection. At least there's, he goes into a vacant unit. So, he is protected and everything else. So under the CDC guidelines and everything that you hear, there is no interactions during an initial, but on an annual, we're just trying to keep everyone safe. No integration, interactions with, the families and or the contractor inspector, or if or if housing authority has their own in-house inspector. So we are trying to follow the CDC guidelines, in which figuring, hey, if HUD is allowing this regulatory relief, that we can get a certified letter, notification from the landlord. I'm fine, I'm fine for it now, because we know that our housing stock, there's always violations in the units, but unless if the tenant calls and there's a emergency violations, our contract inspector will go out just on initials and on any emergency inspections at this point in time.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-1?
So moved. Paul, Rubin.
Moved by Mr. Rubin. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second. Lisa is muted.
Seconded by Mr. Becker. Discussion? Seems reasonable to me. It's part of the COVID protocol. So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I think I saw Lisa's lips move, so.
Yep.
So it's 4-0. Okay, brings us to items for future agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Joe's contract.
yes. I don't know if we can get a final report or a status report on the congregate resolving the punch list and so forth on the congregate reconstruction.
Yeah, if you want, I can just speak real quick on what's going on with the congregate. I'm sorry on that. Right now, the job is all complete. CHFA, same thing. I've told them my little concerns that we have on there. So CHFA is involved. Their field observer will not, I guess, will not be coming back out. So this is going to be the negotiations now of what happened. So our architects will be going out there with their punch list of what still needs to be done or concerns. One of the things is that, as you may recall, last month I had talked about how I spoke with Best Bath, and they sent out a new tub kit that was installed last week. The resident was very, very ecstatic, very happy. But the contractor that we hired said that the base, what Northeast Builders contractors, they didn't properly install that unit. And if that one wasn't, and what is it to make me believe that the other 36 may have been installed faulty, that just right now, unit 13, we've had the problems. Who's to say that we may not happen in the other 36? So I am waiting for that detailed report from our contractor, so I can submit that to Tom Arcari, our architect, and a copy to CHFA for my records, and of course to Mike Arona on this. So CHFA is, with their field observers and everything else, that's where we're at right now, because they're looking to release the retainage. But I don't want to say I'm holding the retainage hostage, but I just have some concerns. And before the final retainage can be released, Northeast Builders needs to submit all their information, and then we have to have our auditor review it before it's submitted to CHFA, and then they can make a final decision.
So this may still drag on for a couple more months in all likelihood.
In regards to, correct, but overall, the project is, finalized. All the work is done except for some of this little punch list items that I have some concerns about.
Maybe,
Say,
at the next meeting, maybe you could just draft up a memo as to where we're at, like a month from now.
Yep.
Where you're at with us, just so, hopefully this final completion will happen, but, just so we, the board
Yeah.
knows where you're at with it.
Right, and that's why as you know, usually every month I give a report on that. So I figured this month I was waiting until see what happens. I wanted to give you a more detailed information. So that's why exactly what you're saying, Tim. I was waiting for that thing. So that's why I didn't have it on this month's agenda, because really it's just things that I'm doing behind the scenes and all that stuff. As you know, when it's something very important, I let my bosses know what's going on. So
No, I didn't expect it every month, but I just, maybe when you do have something, if you do have something first next month, just to, hopefully it'll be good news.
Yep,
That it's
no,
gotten resolved.
absolutely.
knowing what we've been dealing with on that project, though, something tells me it's gonna drag on for a few more months.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Could be next summer.
Just-
But at least one thing, it's just the release of funds and all that stuff. But the other things, everything is completed. So
Right.
that's what's good.
Hey,
At least on the other hand, the contractor at Spencer seems to be doing an excellent job. So,
Excellent job.
Okay. Anything else on future agenda? If not, there's no executive session tonight. We will have an agenda item on Joe's contract. I did submit draft language to board members. So based on what we had discussed last month. Is there a motion to adjourn?
come on, Lisa.
Lisa's reaching. Yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Okay, moved by Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll
Second,
second.
seconded by Tim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Bye.
Aye.
Okay, 7:40, Karen.
nice job.
Boy, that's a new record.
No, I think we had one, it was about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or I think it's a Becker record, though. I think as long as,
Yeah.
I only asked about
That's good.
10 questions.
Yeah.
all right, see you later, everybody.
All
Okay,
right.
have a good one.
Good meeting.